The very first Olympics took place in Greece 2,800 years ago. And let me tell you one thing, Greece was a very violent place at the time. So one of the goals was to bring a little bit of peace to Greece, which rhymes and probably would have been a great slogan, but it wasn't. Anyways, the championships went on for 1,000 years until they got cancelled, and then in 1896 they got reinstantiated, and they are the modern Olympics as we know them today. One of the recurring themes of the championships was innovation. And I'm not only talking about innovating in sports, but in general, really. So here I have a little list of all the different things that have been innovated during the Olympics, and I'm going to go through just a couple of them. One of them is bringing in new sports. And of course, I don't mean creating new ones during the Olympics, but bringing a bit of attention to some of the sports which we don't really hear about on a day-to-day basis. So in Tokyo, 3 years ago, they brought in surfing and skateboarding to the championships, and this year they brought in breaking, which is breakdancing. Broadcasting is another one. And since the Olympics started off in 1896, when media was at a very different stage than it is right now, they've kind of paved the way together, and hence sports is such an integral part to the way we consume media nowadays. That also translates to how we consume social media, because nowadays any sporting event is also there on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, wherever you look. Then we have timing and scoring. And as you can imagine, that consisted of somebody standing there with a stopwatch, trying to be objective and seeing who crosses the finishing line first. And ever since, those techniques have been constantly perfected up until today. And we're going to be talking about this a little bit more in the context of artificial intelligence. Next, we have anti-doping measures. And since a couple of countries decided to cheat in the Olympics in the past couple of years, well, I think we needed to put a bit more emphasis on that, which also helped the field of medicine in detecting different substances in our blood. Another important field is sustainability. And that is very important for the reason that, well, if you're organizing the Olympics, you're probably going to build a number of different venues. And those venues have to stay in place after the Olympics are done for years or even decades. So making sure that those buildings are reusable in the future is extremely important. Just take a look at the Olympics in Greece in 2004 and realize that a lot of the buildings that were built for that event are now left vacant. We don't want to continue that. Since the last Olympics in 2021 in Tokyo, artificial intelligence has become something of a household name. And so the IOC, which is the International Olympic Committee, had to do something about bringing artificial intelligence into the Olympics. So earlier this year, they launched the Olympic AI Agenda. And that was a 2-hour-long meeting where they discussed all the different areas where they would innovate using artificial intelligence within the Olympics. The whole thing was conducted by the IOC, but also by their technical partners such as Intel and Alibaba. The one thing that they were very, very clear about was that they do not wish to replace athletes with artificial intelligence, if that's something you're worried about, but instead aiding them and making sure that their results are even better than they were in the past. So I'm going to go through a number of different announcements from that event, and we'll see how they affect the future of sports. Probably one of the most relatable tools that they've announced is called Athletes 365. And it's basically a platform for anybody who's taking part in the Olympics or the organizers. And it's basically an aggregate of different tools that will help you keep organized within the Olympics. So there's going to be a map, there's going to be 3D visualizations, a timetable, all of that kind of cool stuff. And within Athlete 365 lives Athlete GPT, which, as you might imagine, is kind of like a chat GPT for athletes. And it's actually a RAG, which is a retrieval augmented generation, which means basically that it's a database of documents and information connected to a model like ChatGPT. And basically when you ask questions to it, it will go through all those documents, get the right information for you, and then using ChatGPT or whatever other model it's using, will deliver the information in a readable and pleasant way. So that's basically what a RAG is, and we'll probably talk about RAGs in the future in another video. But anyways, that is Athlete GPT, and it is only available to the people competing in the Olympics. Then we're going to be looking at something very exciting, at least in my opinion. It's called 3D AT, and it's a technology coming from the company Intel, which is the AI partner of the Olympics. And what it does is it does a 3D analysis of an athlete, and measures a lot of different variables and metrics on how they perform. So the agility, the speed, the reflex, and all of those things which make up for an athlete being very good at their job. And it's going to be very useful for a number of different use cases. Here's the little video by Intel about how they brought this technology to Senegal to scout for new athletes.
We're here in Senegal, partnered with the Senegalese National Olympic Committee, to uncover the best young talent in the country. We're actually deploying a revolutionary program that helps us analyze talent using artificial intelligence. This is something that's never been possible before. And with our partnership with Intel, it gives us that ability to analyze millions of metrics and data points. And those metrics identify talent. Being here really allows us to see how this technology can change lives. We know combining sports and technology has that power to do that. It has a massive impact across the country and the ability to really change the future of so many young people. This tool will ultimately provide the opportunity for young children to better their lives through sport.
I think this is pretty incredible because what this technology does is it opens the doors to a lot of people who are either not interested in sports that much and don't even know about their potential, or people who don't have the means to pursue their career in sports. So now, instead of having one trainer who's going to be checking the performance of 3 to 5 athletes, we'll have a piece of AI toolkit which can do the same for hundreds or even thousands of people at a time. If they make this technology public, there's no question about how this is going to revolutionize the way we find new talent for sports. Judging would be another area which would really benefit from a technology like this one. So when it comes to running or swimming, yeah, it's probably pretty simple. But when it comes to something a little less trivial, like for example, synchronized diving or acrobatics or dressage, which I learned about yesterday, things are a little bit more tricky because you have a number of judges who give out different scores for different elements of the performance. And some of the things that they judge is not that easy to spot with the naked eye. Here's a bit of footage of how AI was being used in the previous Olympics when it comes to detecting on which area of the mat the athlete lands when performing a jump. And you can see that it's not that simple to detect where the person lands, and AI is very helpful for doing this. But this year we're going a step further, and this is an example of a diver who's jumping off the board. And look at all the different parameters that we can detect. So we have the max height, which is the height between the athlete and the water, the distance between the head and the board. Then we have the rotations, the rotation speed, and then we have alignment and angle and entry speed. A lot of different parameters which would be undetectable to the human eye. But with technologies like this 3D AT stuff, well, things are going to be a lot easier and probably a lot more fair these days. Also, tracking all this information will be very, very useful for training in the future. As you may be aware, baseball and Formula 1 racing and tennis might be sports where a lot of data is being held and millions and billions of data points are kept in databases which help us get better and better at those sports. But there are a lot of different sports where we just don't have the technology to capture all this information. And so this is yet to be changed, and I think it's going to happen very soon. And since we're in the topic of training, here's a crazy piece of tech that I wanted to show you. And we're moving away from software a little bit and into hardware. Well, actually combining the two in general. So Alibaba has built a tool which learns on how you react to different situations in the playing field of ping pong. It basically learns exactly how you would respond to each of the different situations. So here's a robot arm which reacts the same way that the 2013 gold medalist Zhu Jin would react to any of the situations. And you can see a video of their IT director playing against the robot, which is not going very well for him. And here's a video of Zhu Jin playing against himself, or well, at least an artificial version of himself. Now, I think this is going to be a revolution in a lot of different fields of sport, because instead of training with another person, so in the case of Zhu Jin, probably when he was training, he would have to train against somebody who was at least close to as good as he was just to get better at the sport. But nowadays, if you want to learn, obviously you want to learn from somebody better than yourself. So you get a machine that trains on the world champion of your discipline and basically can keep on getting better by playing against them. So that is pretty cool. For now, it's only working for ping pong, but I'm sure it's gonna work for other disciplines as well. Now, moving away from sports a little bit, we're gonna be looking at a couple of use cases where artificial intelligence will benefit the organizers. So apparently there's gonna be around 500 million posts on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. about the Olympics. And with 500 million posts on social media, there's of course gonna be a bit of hate because the internet is a dangerous and horrible place at times. So they are going to be implementing a lot of different AI tools that will monitor the amount of data and the type of data which is going on, and they will be flagging information which is breaking the rules of those platforms and sending that information to them so that they can flag and probably ban the users who are spreading such horrible and hateful information. Then when organizing events like this one, security is a very important element. And we're talking about both security physically and cybersecurity. So for security, they're going to be adopting a lot of artificial intelligence into the monitoring systems. And they were very clear about the fact that they won't be using facial recognition in their systems because of certain laws in the EU and specifically France, but they will be doing movement analysis and determining what the behavior of different people will be in the future based on what they're doing right now. Sort of like Minority Report kind of stuff. And last but not least, organizing those kind of events is extremely tricky from an organizational perspective. There's so many different variables that they have to take under consideration. Fortunately, this year, because they partnered up with Alibaba and Intel, they got all the help they needed in terms of modeling the whole city and simulating all the different events that could occur. Apparently, this sort of 3D modeling and artificial intelligence movements has helped them increase their productivity by about 60%, which in the grand scheme of things is massive because organizing this kind of an event takes months and years. So 60% is basically less than half of the time they needed in the past. And again, this kind of technology will now be applicable not only for the Olympics, but any other events that you'll be organizing in the future. So that's how the Olympics have been innovating this year, at least in terms of artificial intelligence. As you can imagine, a lot of this stuff will be usable by anybody out there in the future. In fact, 3D AT is actually implemented in a lot of stores which help you detect which running shoes will be the best for you. I actually went to an ASICS shop earlier this year to get my running shoes, and they were doing a very similar analysis to what we saw in today's video, where they would make me run on a treadmill and take a video of it and analyze how my feet lined up and how my bones lined up and choose the right shoes for me. So that's one place where you can already see those advancements in technology in everyday life. So I hope this was interesting to you and you've learned something new, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll see you soon. Bye.